Swans are an experimental rock band who have had a bit of a late career boost because of the internet, online music critics giving them a lot of buzz and hype, which they really would never have gotten out of the internet era. They were fairly well known before, but they've really gotten huge this decade due to the internet essentially. Which is cool because niche bands and weird experimental music can get that boost in today's music climate. It's a really great era that we're in that we do take advantage of, I think, sometimes. And I've liked Swans generally throughout their career. I've not heard every album they've put out, but most of the albums they've put out this decade I've liked. The one I've not heard their 2010 album yet, but I like The Seer. I think To Be Kind is really good too. The Glowing Man is pretty good. They're generally a really interesting band, but I've never really felt that connection to them, to be honest, where I'm totally in love with their albums. They always go a bit too far with the repetition for me, to the point where it sometimes gets really boring. And there's really not much substance in their music, I don't think. I don't think Michael Gira's writing is particularly very interesting most of the time. So I kind of don't really get that urge to keep going back to their music. I will go back to songs like Oxygen because that's just a friggin' great song, and other songs as well on The Seer, Piece of the Sky especially. Just amazing tracks that they've done, but they don't always really hold up in full album context, which unfortunately really does translate to what they've done on Leaving Meaning, except this time there isn't really that much standout material coming out of the individual tracks on this one, so I've got less of a reason to return to this album as a whole. To me, Leaving Meaning feels like a transitional piece of music. This is not like what they've done over the past few years. You're getting something completely different to The Seer and To Be Kind. Like, they're barely even comparable, to be honest, in their sound. It's still got the same Swans isms that we've always known, but in terms of the sound, it's a bit more gothic, kind of like country leaning at points, very avant folky, quite drony as well. The songs this time around might be more patience testing than they've ever been, and patience testing is the perfect descriptor for any Swans album already. They're quite meditative at points, they're very slow, they don't really progress onto new ideas. You could have some tracks that are like 9-10 minutes and it will be the same instrumental the whole way through. That could be okay if the instrumentals were interesting to start with, but generally on this album they're really not. They feel very bare, they feel completely colourless. I get so little out of many of these tracks. The 11-minute title track is possibly one of the worst moments here, which feels like it's going on for a lifetime. Look, I know it's a bit of an easy criticism to say a song is too long or something, but like, man, this is just too long. Swans can usually build a really cool atmosphere out of what they use, even if the songs aren't as like hard hitting as some of their really ferocious, like primal, inner soul, like weird as fuck moments, because they just have a way of just building upon their instrumentals and kind of like slowly progressing them, and it can just be so interesting to listen to, but they've just lost that on this album. I suppose Sunfucker is one of the moments on the album where that doesn't really apply though, because about halfway through, like 5 minutes into the song, the drums come in, it builds a bit of a rhythmic groove. It's very weird, but it's very Swans-like, and I can get with it. It's just a nice change of pace to some of the more duller moments on the album. But it's annoying because they do seem to show that they can get it right on the track It's Coming, It's Real. This is one of the only tracks that feels to me like they've really mastered the sound that they're going for. They add these nice little touches to the track that make it stand out in comparison to the title track, for example, with those vocals in the background with the Jira's vocals are way more brooding and commanding as well. I'm not like just tuning them out and just waiting for the song to end like I usually am. The track doesn't cross the 10-minute mark, it's like 7 minutes something-ish. It just feels like the right track that they've got perfectly right for this album. It's just such a rare moment for the album. I wish every other track had this same impact. It's like the best elements of a Tindersticks song being put into a Swans song, really. And that's the thing with this album too, like they cannot pull this off in ways that a band like Tindersticks can do, because Tindersticks just have the perfect production for what they're going for. The vocals are always really fantastic. The lyrics are something to pay attention to and get something out of as well. Swans just aren't hitting the heights of that at all. And the thing is that most Swans fans will probably say that, you know, the lyrics aren't really the selling point. Jura kind of just says all kinds of shit, and there's so much more going on in the songs that you should be paying attention to. The way he sings, the way he sells his words is really, really strong for the most part. But with this album though, it's very different, because with tracks like Aniline or Amnesia, what else are you really meant to be paying attention to other than the lyrics? You can't just throw the lyrics aside and say they're useless, because you kind of are forced to pay attention to them because there's barely anything else going on in the song. So I end up picking out lyrics such as "Let's burn in a fire," "Let's clean what is true," "Let me sink in your bed," "Folded in you." I just think, what kind of trite is this man writing? Or the whole thing he has going on the title track too, with the "I can see it but I cannot see it, I can feel it but I can't keep it, I can touch it but I can't hold it," or any of the lyrics he's going on about on the nub. Christ, is this poetry? Is it? I don't know, man. I don't think it is. With that vocal delivery too, it just sounds so cartoonish and pantomime-y to me. Like, it's like I've gone to a Halloween show and you've just got like these amateur actors acting out a really weird story, and they're just wailing their voices like. But even still, I do think there are a few other moments on the album that are actually really quite good. Towards the end as well, I said already, "It's Coming, It's Real" is probably the best track here, but a few tracks after that as well are quite decent too. I really love the instrumental on "Some New Things." It feels like Swans are doing what they do best, to be honest, just building a really cool rhythm and just playing to their strengths with that. I just think that by this point though, I'm kind of feeling a bit tired of the whole album, that unfortunately it's not really enough to save the whole thing, but it is a moment that I can, you know, take solace in, because at least I am enjoying it as the album is coming to an end. I do guess for me, maybe the best moments do come in the shorter tracks, because, you know, even the Hanging Man just fizzles out really quickly for me. I think that instrumental just being repeated over and over again gets really redundant and stale. I'm just really ready to switch it off after like 4 minutes, and it goes on to like friggin' 11-12 minutes. It just feels unnecessarily long to me. And I think there is something to be said in the amount of talent it takes to, you know, incorporate this amount of repetition. I think listeners probably don't realize the skill it takes in the band to just keep something going for as long as Swans do. I mean, they take it to the extremes on the Seer and keep the title track going for like, what is it, like 30 minutes or something? And sure, it might not be very entertaining to listen to, like, for the average music listener, but I wouldn't take away from the talent it takes to keep something like that going for as long as they do. I think for me, when the instrumental isn't particularly very interesting to begin with, it really doesn't grip my attention for very long. And the thing is with Swans as well is that they're really kind of they're kind of pushing themselves into a corner at this point, because the repetition is sort of losing its flair, because it's like, yeah, we know you can do this, you've done this however many times before, give us something new. Even as different as this sounds to Be Kind or The Seer or any of their stuff from the 80s or the 90s, it is kind of predictable. I mean, on first listen, I knew exactly what I was going to get with the tracks. When the Hanging Man started, I knew that I was going to keep the same instrumental the whole way through, and it did. And some of the other tracks as well, I was just like, I know where this is going. And the answer is, it's going to go nowhere, because this is what Swans always do. So I think if you're a huge Swans fan, you're going to love this, because they are doing what they've always done. But I'm very surprised there aren't more people out there that are starting to see through their ideas, because they repeat a lot of things that they aren't really developing at this point. Like I say, I do think this feels more like a transitional album into the next thing for them. We'll have to see what they bring in the next decade. I'm sure it'll be something interesting, but at the same time, I'm a little hesitant because I also feel like it could be the same over and over again that we keep getting from Swans. So yeah, I think I'm going to go 5 out of 10, to be honest. It's pretty average overall. There were some moments I really didn't like, but then the moments towards the end of the album did start to pick up, and even in the middle there were a few tracks that I didn't mind either, but generally overall, I could do without this. I know this will end up being a controversial review. Let me know what you think. Try hearing me out on what I'm saying here. Hopefully you enjoyed my review and got something out of it. Hope you have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Goodbye.